Hey guys, and welcome back to DBTalks. And yeah, so apologies for the late video, but we are going to be reacting to and commenting on the win at Camp Nou, where Barcelona won 5-2 against Sevilla. And again, we ended up getting our revenge, which, if you remember, early in the season, we ended up losing 4-1 to Sevilla away. And thankfully, in this game, we ended up getting our revenge. And honestly, yeah, there was a lot of goals in this game. Sometimes there was defensive chaos at times, but I think overall we just genuinely played beautiful football, and honestly, it was a big performance from some of our key players and a couple of surprise performances, which we'll talk about later. But again, it wasn't a perfect game, but again, a really, really good game going into the Newcastle game, which is actually tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that as well. But I mean, coming into this game specifically against Sevilla, again, Barca are again still in the lead in La Liga, but again, it's just by 1 point. So, or sorry, by 4 points now. So again, it's still really tight. So you can never take it for granted. And again, Sevilla have gotten the upper hand on us previously in the season, so you can never underestimate them. But again, the main thing going into this game was to keep the momentum after the Newcastle draw and the Bilbao game, and also to rotate a bit because you don't want to injure or like potentially put your key players in risk in a game in La Liga where we already have a lead, and we'd all consider the Champions League fixture a bit more important. So again, it was just a more confidence kind of based game where again it's still really important to win, but again it was important for Flick and the team to kind of rotate to save some players for the Newcastle game. And yeah, I mean, looking at the lineup, so you can see that the lineup was slightly rotated. And Brijash, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, so just talking about the game as well, because like you mentioned, the game before this was the Newcastle game where, we can say that Barca didn't really play the best game, and I think that game, I noticed that Barca were really struggling in that game, and I think in this game, the Sevilla game, I mean, we know the difference between Barca and the league and the UCL, and the difference and the importance that they both competitions kind of have, where in the UCL it's more of Barca is like it's like a fight or lose situation where if Barca lose and they're completely out of the tournament. But with the league, it's more like Barca can put up a performance, and really the most important part is just getting 3 points and just trying to survive and staying on top of the table and just trying to maintain the lead. And we know that right now Barca have a 4 point difference. So in the prior match, it was a 1 point difference with a game in hand against Madrid. So really, it was just trying to really the whole point for Barca in the league is just to extend the league as much as possible to win the league as early as possible and like secure the league. And definitely, like you mentioned with the last time Barca played Sevilla, it was one of the worst games of Barca this season, where we saw the 4-1 loss, where Barca didn't really play well and was very defensively weak. And you can see the a bit of like some difference in like the defending today. We will talk also about the goals that Barca conceded, because I think there's a bit of a pattern that we noticed on the type of goals that Barca really conceded and kind of what led to those. But yeah, talking about the lineups going to the game, because like you mentioned, Barca kind of rotated a bit because obviously for the Newcastle game, Barca it's in a 1-1 tie score right now. So definitely like going to the Camp Nou and playing Newcastle, Barca obviously want the most healthy and the most strong squad available to be 100% ready. So like kind of make some changes, and yes, I'm gonna talk about lineup. So João Garcia was keeper. I think that's going to be a constant for the rest of the season unless something happens. But for now, it's just João Garcia. And so left back, so full back, so Koundé and Balde are still injured. So left back is Cancelo, who has been playing a left back, who I would say is actually been pretty impressive as of lately, and I think has definitely been using the left back role pretty effectively in terms of his attacking output and like the way the stuff he brings to his attacking attack on the left side. So I think we'll talk about that a bit more later. But besides that, center back pairing was Gerard Martin and Kubarsi, which I think has been probably the most. I think it's the center back pairing that I think Flick might be the most comfortable with. I think obviously like Eric Garcia has been pretty good this season, but I think in terms of just the center back duo, I think Flick kind of trusts this duo the most, feeling this one in like some pretty big games. And then right back we have Gavi's Liga debut under Barca. We saw him come on versus Newcastle as a sub in the Newcastle, right? But then we weren't sure if he would say right back or what Flick would really do with that right back position. And I guess Flick wanted to give Xavi Esparza his starting his debut game in La Liga, and we let him start the game. And I think we'll talk about him also a bit, but I think he's been pretty I would say impressive in my opinion, and I think he's taking the role on well. I'd say, especially for his age and just the conditions that he's going into. And I think people who've been watching, kind of monitoring him and like all other like Barca B players, I think they noticed that he's definitely one of our top prospects. I'd say, especially for like a fullback. I think we've heard his name before, and I think people do have some like promise in him. And then talking about the midfield, so it was Pedri and Bernal, and I mean I think some people expected Pedri to get arrested and not play this game, but I think like still wanted to play Pedri just because the midfield depth has been kind of lacking because we know De Jong's out and Gavi is just coming back from an injury, so it wouldn't really make sense to start him. And with Casado, I think Casado he got subbed on in this game, but for starting, I don't think Flick wanted to go with that option. And I think having Pedri is just the more safe option. And we'll talk about Pedri later, but he did eventually get his rest, so I think that's definitely important. And Bernal, I mean, we'll definitely talk about Bernal as well because I think Bernal has been recently one of the more impressive players for Barca. Talking about the front four, so yeah, so Raphinha played. He started and played, so he didn't get rest, but I think it was a good game to play Raphinha in. I think it gives Raphinha a chance to have a good game and boost his confidence going to this part of the season where it's more important for players to really step up. And I think Raphinha, if we talk about Raphinha's like performance this season, I think he's had some good moments, but at the same time, I feel like he hasn't reached that level that we've really seen him become. And I think this was definitely a good game to play him. And then and then attacking mid, like, and it was Danny Olmo, who I think the whole like Danny Olmo versus Fermín thing. I feel like it's very complicated because I feel like they're like it's very game state dependent, and like the type of team that they're Barca are playing, really like both are good in different type of situations. And we'll talk about Olmo of course later in the video, but I think Olmo was the right choice from Flick for this game. And then Lamine Yamal was rested for Rooney Bargi, and I think this was a very good decision on Flick because I think we know that Flick played Lamine Yamal a lot, and he played him for like 90 minutes or in basically every game, and he didn't really give Rooney opportunities. But I think today, or not today, well when Barca played Sevilla, he gave Rooney his starting minutes and let him play, and then gave Lamine rest, which I think was a very good decision because it gives Lamine Yamal rest for the Newcastle game, but also gives Rooney playing time, which definitely is good for his development and gives him like more to prove and more chance to prove himself to get more minutes under the team. And striker was I also say that I think it's a decision that I would also go. People have their preferences, I guess, between Lewandowski and Fran, but I think Fran recently hasn't been that impressive in terms of just the goal scoring and his output. And I think having a veteran striker like Lewandowski, who he just even with his age, he somehow finds a way to be a big positional threat and a goal scoring threat. I think just having him is very useful. And I think having him up top was also a good choice from Flick. So yeah, that was the lineup, but I think overall, I think that's a pretty good lineup going to the game. I think Flick got that one right.
Yeah, I think the major surprises for the lineup was, as you mentioned, the right back position where we saw Xavi Spar get his opportunity. And yeah, as you mentioned, he got a couple minutes for his Newcastle. He looked a bit promising, but I do think with Kunde being injured and our right back depth not being the best, it was cool to see someone like a youngster like him get the opportunity. And you can tell that Flick does really trusts La Masia and he loves giving opportunities to players like Xavi Esparza. It was good to see him get the opportunity to play this game. And honestly, overall, we talk about performances, but I do think he was pretty decent. I don't think he was anything special, but again, it's just really good to see him play the full game. And yeah, at 18 years old, I mean, so it's a pretty hard position to play in. So I think he was good to be given the chance. And also, yeah, Rooney Bargi finally getting the chance again back in the lineup, which was really important because a player like Yamal, like going against Newcastle, it's important to have him at 100% of fitness. And yeah, I think Rooney deserves a chance in La Liga to get more minutes. And when he's been given the chance, usually he's taking it. So yeah, it was good to see him also get the opportunity to play in this game. But looking at the first half, I mean, I think Barca really started on the best foot. I think again we've seen the record at Camp Nou where Barca like has 100% win rate, and we've dominated teams at the Camp Nou. So it was kind of expected. But again, yeah, we started the game off on really aggressive and playing high, and again we constantly attacked the Sevilla box, and we were causing a lot of problems. But the first moment in the game was the ninth minute where Cancelo ended up winning a penalty, and again he kind of burst into the box. And we've seen this so many times where Cancelo, even as a left back, he really pushes up as like a left winger almost at times, where Raphinha inverts into the kind of central areas. And yeah, Cancelo again kind of gets into the box, and he's clipped by Jabril So, the Sevilla midfielder. Yeah, it's a clear penalty to be honest, and that was given. And this time we saw Raphinha step up and coolly, like he does a nice Panenka down the middle, and honestly, an ice cold finish from him. And even a player like Raphinha, like recently, he's not been in the best form. So again, this game was really important for him to, I guess, get those goals, get the confidence back in him, because we do know like he's one of those kind of relentless players where he'll always press it for us and stuff, but he does kind of depend on his confidence levels. So again, it was really important to see him do well in this game. And yeah, thankfully, like he showed that confidence where he stepped up and decided to do a Panenka, which was really cool to see. And at that point, we were 1-0 up early in the game. And again, I think we just kept dominating the game. And again, in the 21st minute, we saw Cancelo win yet another penalty. And again, we just another overlapping runs to the area, and he draws another foul from the Sevilla defense. So again, really, I think Cancelo had a great impact in this game. He won us two penalties, and we'll talk about what he did later in the game. But again, he was really influential at the start of the game. And again, it was up to Raphinha to make it 2-0. And this time it was a bit more standard of a finish, nothing special like a Panenka, but thankfully it did kind of slot into the net. And yeah, at that point we're 2-0 up, and it's within 25 minutes. So honestly, like a really, really good start for Barcelona's side of things, where again, it's not open play goals, but again, if you're 2-0 up, you really need to take that going into the game. And again, just before the half ended, at the 38th minute, we saw Daniel Mo make it 3-0, and this was actually a really well worked goal. And again, we saw kind of like a low driven ball from Bernal, who's on the left side. And again, a really, really good finish from Daniel Mo, a really powerful finish from him to slam it home and make it 3-0. And again, we've seen Bernal actually push up in so many positions in recent times where, he's almost like a box crusher, and he's been influencing games for Barca at this time. So again, really, really good play from him, and another really good finish from Olmo, who has honestly been so inconsistent again. Like he had that time period where Pedri was injured, where he was like actually really good. But again, I think recent times he's been a bit inconsistent. But for that goal itself, I think he was really good. And yeah, just before the half ended, unfortunately, Sevilla ended up making it 3-1. And honestly, again, this was a really, really good goal. I mean, it was a cross into the box, and I think it was Oso who has like a first time finish right into the corner. You can't really blame like Joan Garcia for that goal. And again, I think maybe the defense could have marked him a bit better, maybe pressed him a bit more. But again, I think that was just a really, really good finish from him, like almost a volley that he did. So again, 3-1 at the halftime, could have been 3-0 up, which would have been more ideal. But again, I think it was a really overall just positive half from Barca's side of things.
Yeah, I think the first half, I think I think it was a good half from Barca's, but I think also at the same time, I think it could have been better. And I think even Flick notices that. I think, talking about the first half, I mean, definitely those two pens gave Barca a pretty big momentum, because obviously going 2-0 up, no matter how it is, and I think they're fair penalties. I think it was definitely helped Barca a lot. And I think someone to Raphinha who, we kind of talk about how recently he hasn't been up to like at the standard that people have seen him last season. I think having him take those penalties and score them, I think gives him a big confidence booster, and I think it just helps the team. And I think that's the most important thing, is that helps the team get the win. And definitely those two goals were huge for Barca. And I think throughout you can see Barca are also trying to just create chances. And I think this in this game, I think Barca really just were trying to attack the best. And I think all that I really noticed and I like is that I think with someone like Cancelo on the left, I think he brings something very, like, I guess you could say, new to the attack. And I think I've noticed that in the games that he's played, that I feel like the attack gets a bit more threatening. And I think three because of the way that Cancelo attacks. I think it's different from what we've really seen, and I think that's really what just makes Barca. I would say recently a bit maybe more interesting on the attacking end. I think Barca have different avenues and like, being a threat to the goal, and I think that's definitely something that is important for some like Flick's system that relies on just scoring goals in the first place. I think having something like that is very good, and I saw people like some discourse online talk about Cancelo versus Balde, and I don't know how long, like, because I know Cancelo recently has been good, but I don't know if he'll maintain it for the whole season. Hopefully he does, but we'll see when Baldy's back what kind of things happen, because I feel like both offer a different type of style. No matter what, I don't know what really like people Flick will prefer, but yeah, I think just what Cancelo's bringing right now is definitely something huge. And you mentioned the penalties that he won as well. That definitely had a huge impact on Barca's the first half at least, and I think I think like he should definitely deserve his credit because I think he's been pretty huge in this. So yeah, I think that's something that I took away a lot from the first half, and something also noticed is that I guess Pedri, because I think Pedri like I feel like he had a good game, but also pretty quiet game. But I think in this half, I'd say that he was definitely effective, but I think it wasn't one of those games where you kind of know or immediately know, oh, it's Pedri's controlling the whole game. I feel like he had a bit more quiet of the game, but I think it was good enough to control the game and just help Barca maintain possession and all. So I think that was just something I noticed. I think he was kind of taking it easy because he wanted to prepare for the Newcastle game. So yeah, and I'm very happy that he got subbed off in the first half because he needed his rest, obviously. So I think that's just huge, and I think definitely monitoring Pedri's minutes because he's been injured twice this season. So I think monitoring his health and just not making him play too many minutes, especially if it's unnecessary. I think having Flick do that is something that I think he should do more often with certain players. That's why I'm very happy that I did Lamine Yamal, because I think Lamine Yamal is playing so much, and I think still also very young, and I think he's at his development stage. So I feel like risking him playing all these minutes, if it leads to more injuries, I think that could potentially ruin his career. So I'm just happy that Flick is trying his best to rotate and just manage minutes between the players that need it the most, and I think probably the more valuable players for Barca. But yeah, besides that, I think also the Olmo goal, because when I was watching, it was an insane goal, like the first time finish, I believe. And yeah, I think you mentioned almost inconsistency a bit, where he's had games where he makes huge impact, where he can either score or do something. Even in Newcastle, he didn't have a good game, but then he also won the pen at the end that got the draw for Barca. So I think he definitely has those like lasting minutes of impact. And yeah, I think also attacking wise, I feel like sometimes he can do well, but sometimes he may not. But I think definitely like that goal today, the goal over Sevilla 2 days ago, it was definitely very huge, and it was a very good finish on his end. And I think games like these where Olmo just does that, it's just very good. So I think definitely big goal from Olmo. And yeah, again, that I feel like the first half, I feel like nothing too much happened. I feel like the goals were scored were good. And also talking about the goal that Barca conceded for Sevilla, I feel like that was it was a good goal from Sevilla. I feel like it was also a bit poor defending from Barca's end. I think definitely that could have been prevented from Barca, but yeah. But still, going 3-1 in the first half, it definitely was pretty huge, and definitely Barca were scoring the goal. So I feel like, it brought a lot of confidence for the second half and like what the team was going to go into.
And as you did mention, like at halftime, Flick ended up taking Pedri off right away. So again, I feel like that was a bit more of a protected decision to keep him fit for the Newcastle game, which should really smart from Flick. And we saw Fermín Lopez come on, and I think immediately he added a bit more energy to our midfield. And again, we saw that with the goal that Raphinha scored in the 51st minute, where Fermín kind of drove forward and he kind of slips a pass over to Raphinha, and again Raphinha kind of cuts in and a weak for finish, but it kind of does a big deflection off the Sevilla defender, and it does end up going in and is credited as being a goal. So he does end up getting the hat trick, but again, it wasn't like the best hat trick to write home about. But again, it's a really important thing for Raphinha's confidence, as I mentioned before. And overall, I mean, being 4-1 up is really something you can't be mad about when you're at home. So I think that was another important goal and important moment in the game. And I mean, from that point on forward, I think the whole game was pretty much over. I think again, Barca were kind of in cruise control, trying to just manage the game. And again, we saw in the 60th minute it got even better for Barca, where Cancelo kind of drives forward, and again he gets the goal that his performance deserves. And honestly, this game was maybe one of the best Cancelo performances we've seen. It was maybe one or his top best or maybe second best. And again, he just kind of drives through the whole team and just keeps going, and drives into the box and then cuts it inside his defender. You know how he can be really good as a dribbler, and again, really calm finish. Ends up going between the goalkeeper's legs and into the bottom corner. And again, a really good goal. And at 5-1, you know, the whole Camp Nou was bouncing, and it feels like more of a statement win from Barca's end. And again, just it caps off a really good performance from Cancelo himself. And again, around 66 to 70 minutes, I mean, Hansi Flick ended up starting to make changes to get a bit more rest for the other players, and he brought on Araujo, Casado, and Yamal. I think Yamal was brought on to, you know, get him a couple minutes ahead of Newcastle, and also like Araujo and Casado just to get players like Bernal a bit of rest, and even what's his name, Cancelo, to get a bit of rest. So again, I think it was good rotations from Flick at that point, because at 5-1, the game's pretty much done. And again, another big moment in the game was the 80th minute where Gavi ended up coming on. And I mean, this was a big moment because Gavi's missed, like, I don't know how many months he's missed due to injury. And again, he came on, got the captain's armband. And I think that was overall just a big moment where we saw the whole Camp Nou, you know, giving a standing ovation to Gavi. And again, the fact that he got the captain's armband just shows the whole overall synergy between the squad. And it just shows I guess, the passion that they have for each other. And yeah, I just really appreciate that from the whole squad, and even Flick, because he does act like a father figure. And Gavi's even mentioned it so many times that Flick, you know, believes in him and always is backing him. So it's just really good to see the overall squad being, you know, together and supporting Gavi in his recovery from injury. And again, even when he came on, I feel like Gavi had a pretty good performance. He did look kind of sharp, and that was good to see. So again, this at this point, like, the game was pretty much dropped, and we were just kind of giving minutes and rotating. So nothing too important happened. But I mean, near the very end, like last second of the game, we saw Sevilla make it 5-2. And again, this was a pretty well worked goal, and it was kind of a big cross and a header from Jibril So, who did end up giving a penalty to us. So yeah, I mean, that was a good goal from their end, to be fair, and they ended up making it 5-2. But I mean, at that point, I mean, the game was over. So again, Barca ended up winning the game 5-2, job done, and you can't really complain about much. It was a bit chaotic than you would have hoped for, but again, I just feel like it was a really good overall game from the team. But yeah, what were your thoughts, Prajesh?
Yeah, I think second half Barca started off a lot strong. You know, obviously going 3-1 in the first half was good, and then at the start of the second half, I think Barca really picked up the momentum even more. And we saw the goal from Raphinha. You said it was a reflection, it was a hat trick, but so I think it was a good goal. Just that Raphinha scored, I think it was a huge goal for Barca to extend the lead and make it comfortable, like the gap. And I think definitely, like, in the last Sevilla game when it was 4-1, I think that definitely brought fans down due to the scoreline. But now when it was 4-1 for Barca, I think that, you know, the revenge felt nice for the fans, and I think definitely brought so much energy. No matter how the goals were scored, I think still just a 4-1 goal, a 4-1 scoreline is just huge. Yeah, I think that was great, and the hat trick was great for Raphinha to, you know, give him confidence with his impact, because I think definitely, like, scoring a hat trick will make any player feel very nice. So I think definitely Raphinha felt that, and I think Raphinha is one of those players that I think deserves it the most, because I feel like he brings so much energy and so much importance to the team, and he's definitely like a big, like, team player. I think he supports everyone in the squad, and he tries his best. He works hard, so I feel like definitely was deserved for him. And I really like that he got the hat trick. And then talk about the Cancelo goal, because I thought that was a pretty huge moment. I mean, that was kind of like a goal brought from Cancelo himself. It was like an individual brilliance moment where it's really him just dribbling and breezing past, you know, Sevilla's team, their midfield and their defense. And you know, we saw his cut in and then the finish. I think it was a very good finish from his end. And I think definitely, like I mentioned before, Cancelo brings a whole new perspective of attack to Barca. And I think, I mean, I think it's very useful to have. And I think, you know, we've seen with someone like Balde who has the potential to do that, and he's kind of done stuff like that similar before, where he can just, you know, use his pace and his dribbling ability to breeze past midfield and, like, defensive defensive backlines. But I think with Cancelo this game, I think he was really more effective with that, and he got the goal as well by himself. So I feel like that's definitely huge, and I think having moments like that definitely shows how important Cancelo has been recently, and just how well he's filled in that left back position. ever since Baldi has gone injured. I definitely think that was a huge moment. I think Cancelo definitely has been, at this game at least, he was definitely one of the more impactful players because obviously we saw in the first half the penalty one, and then now the goal he scored to make it 5-1. I think that was super huge. And yeah, besides that, I think after that, I honestly expected Barca to score more goals just with how everything was going and how attacking Barca were. But then I feel like then kind of settled down, and Barca weren't really able to get another goal after that. And then we saw other subs. I mean, we saw Araujo come on. Oh yeah, well about Fermín, because Fermín came on and he also got an assist. And I think with Fermín, he's made such a huge impact on Barca recently as well on the goal contribution sheet with either a goal or assist. I feel like every time he's came on, he's made a huge impact, and not just like with the goals, but also just his um, impact on the energy and the pressing on the team. I feel like obviously we know how important pressing is for this current Barca team and how like wants the team to press the entire game. And I think for me, he's one of the better players at pressing. I feel like he's more aggressive. He's more, I guess you'd say, like fast and energetic, I'd say. So I think he's definitely one of the better players for that. And I feel like every time he's came on, and then especially in recent form, I feel like he's had like a lot of impact. I feel like he's definitely been an important player, and having him come on for Pedri and then getting assists and just having some good impact, I think definitely is a positive to take away from the game. And I mean, I'm not sure if he's gonna start versus Newcastle. I feel like it's very 50-50 between him and Olmo, but I feel like if he does, I feel like he would do well in it. And so yeah, and then besides that, we also saw Araujo come on, who I feel like he didn't really do much. I'd say I feel like nothing much happened. Cancelo also came on, and also Lamine Yamal came on, and I think the Lamine Yamal sub was pretty interesting. I thought he would have gone rested the whole game, but I think it does make sense for Lamine to have some minutes of play. I feel like he also, when he came on, he didn't really have much to do anyways because it was a 5-1 win anyways. So really, it was more important to take it easy. And yeah, also the Gavi sub was pretty huge, and definitely love the support from the fans and also just the players. I mean, we saw Rahul give Gavi the captain armband for the remainder of the match. And yeah, I think with having someone like Gavi back, I feel like it'll take a while for him to really have more minutes on the pitch, because coming off an injury like that, I feel like it's important to preserve his physical health, and I think it can't really give him too much strain on his body. So I feel like it will take a while for him to really, return to playing a lot of consistent minutes, or potentially even starting. But I think his profile is definitely something that adds value to the squad in terms of the way Flick wants the team to play, and having a player like that in the midfield who presses intensely and can get trouble for opposition midfields. I think he will be important. So we'll see how Gavi continues from now on, and I think definitely like that sub was a huge moment and a very big positive from Barca having a player like him return. I think that's a pretty big thing. And yeah, talk about the goal that Barca conceded. It was very similar to the first goal that Barca conceded versus Emery in this game. And yeah, it just came off a cross, and it was both came from crosses, and I feel like definitely like having a weakness like that is not good at all, because a lot of teams love crossing. I feel like a lot of teams also knows that Barca are kind of weak to things like corners or just crossing in general. And for the Newcastle game, we know that Newcastle definitely have very tall players who are pretty big aerial threats that Barca will have to defend against. So I feel like being very vulnerable to crosses like that will be very bad for Barca if they continue to struggle like this. So I feel like Barca really need to be more aware of defending plays like that against any team, but especially versus Newcastle, because again, it's a knockout game, and if Barca lose it, then it's over. The run is over. So definitely has to be more cautious about things like that. But yeah, I feel like overall, just with the game, and the scoreline is very pretty. It's a 5-2. It's a pretty big thing. I do think the performance could have been better, and I think even Flick knows that, and I think he even said that it's not enough for Newcastle. And I think I can see why he says that, because I feel like the pressing wasn't that consistent. I feel like Barca could have done a bit more at times. I think the goals conceded were conceded. You can have more scoreline, but I think one thing to take away is also just the rest that players got, and I think that's going to be big for the game, because players are rested, they're more ready to play. So I think with having players like that fully ready, I think definitely will give Barca a better chance to perform well. So yeah, Yeah. Besides that, I think the game went fine. I'd say.
And again, looking at the stats at the end of the game, I mean, Barca had around 60% possession and almost 4 XG. So, again, a really dominant performance. And it was good to see that we were able to restore our 4 point lead at the top of La Liga. And again, with the Real Madrid, I mean, they had a really convincing performance against Elche where they won 4-1. And even against in the Champions League, they're dominating versus City. So, again, they are kind of picking up form, you could say. So, we can't take them for granted in La Liga, and it's important to just keep that lead going. And I mean, looking at the player performances, kind of thing. I mean, for me, some standout players were, I'd say, Raphinha, obviously for the hat trick that he scored. Honestly, I put Olmo maybe in there because of that goal he scored. Although other than that goal, he wasn't anything too special. I mean, also I put Fermín in there. I think when he came on in the second half, he gave us a lot of intensity and a lot of pressing that we needed, especially for the third Raphinha goal. And my overall man of the match would be Cancelo. I think overall, like for the 3 goals that we scored, the 2 penalties, he won those, and even the goal he scored, you could argue was the best goal of the match. So overall, I just think it was a really good performance from Cancelo, and he got my man of the match. And I just think with Cancelo, I just feel like he completely owned that left side, and it's really good to see a creative player like him, do well on that left side with Rafinha. So again, really good to see him doing well, and it's honestly shocking to look back a couple weeks where reporters were saying that Flick doesn't trust Cancelo, and it kind of feels like Cancelo was a poor signing from Barca then. But I mean, recently Cancelo's really proving himself to be really good for the side and a really good option for Flick going forward. So I mean, yeah, I mean, you can't really complain about Cancelo, and I think he's really performing well for us at the moment.
Yeah, I think I have some similar shouts as well for like the outstanding players. I'd say definitely Rafinha for the hat trick, Cancelo for his impact on the game. You mentioned like the 2 pens he won and the goal, but also just his overall attacking presence. I think is very good. I think defensively he didn't really have to do much, but I think also like I believe both the goals came from his side of the crosses. So yeah, but he did get subbed off for the second goal before the second goal. So I'm not gonna really see that against him because that didn't really because he didn't have to defend that, but. Yeah, the first goal I think you could maybe argue could have been better, but yeah. Besides that, I think Pedri's like first half cameo. I feel like it was again I said it was pretty quiet, but I think it was still a good he had a good impact on the game, and I think Bernal also has been like super impressive as of recently. I think today or not today, but a few days ago when he played Sevilla, I think he was good, and yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean. Yeah, I think Fermín also had some good impact off the bench. I think Lamine Yamal when he came, he didn't really do much. I think Lewandowski also could have been better. I'd say. I feel like we noticed that the two like either Lewandowski or Ferran both kind of have to do more. I feel, but I feel like they haven't had too much impact on the game that they can have. And yeah, yeah, almost first goal obviously. I think he did that, but yeah. The match, I would give it just to Raphinha just because of the hat trick, and I think, having a hat trick's pretty rare, I'd say. And even though it was 2 pens and a deflection, I think like the pens, I feel like the important part is that he was able to score the pens. And I think we've seen Barca, some players have missed pens. Lamine Yamal missed a pen. Lewandowski also missed a pen. I feel like Raphinha should be the pen taker because he hasn't missed a pen. So I think definitely like someone like that can score pens. Consistently is definitely huge, and he's able to score both the pens, and he also got the deflection goal. And I think you can say I will argue like they weren't the prettiest goals. Still, he made a huge impact on the game, and ultimately was one of the main reasons why Barca got the win. And Cancelo is definitely a good shot though for man of the match. But yeah, for me, I'll just give it to Raphinha because obviously 3 goals is huge and rare, so he definitely deserves it. And yeah, I'll also say like with Xavi Espar, I mean, obviously he's a very young player and it was his La Liga debut, but I think for what he brought, I think it was pretty impressive. And just the fact that the right back options like Koundé is injured, so yeah, I think having him like play that, I think is definitely huge because Barca are giving a lot of opportunities to younger players, and I think every time you've seen it, I feel like they've given like positive impact and something to take away from like their performance. So I feel like that's pretty huge, and we're noticing that Barca. Like some of the main contributors for this team are La Masia players, like Lamine Yamal, Bernal recently, Kubarsi I think has been improving a lot recently, Danny Olmo as well, Even Madrid Martin. So yeah, I feel like that's pretty huge as well. And I think definitely I like that Flick is really incorporating La Masia and giving a lot of different players from La Masia and the Barca B team as well just opportunities, because really it gives them an opportunity to shine. And I feel like most of the time they really do shine and they leave some sort of impact on the fans. So yeah, I feel like it's very good. I think it's a very good thing that Flick is doing it, and just the stuff that La Masia is producing.
And do you want to commentate on like looking forward to Newcastle, the game?
Okay, yeah, so yeah, I mean, definitely it's a big win to go into the Newcastle game. I mean, a 5-2 scoreline is huge, scoring 5 goals, and definitely with the rested players as well. I mean, having Lamine Yamal, I would say fully rested, having Pedri rested, having Raphinha coming off a hat trick. I mean, these are the key players, and definitely I think it will be huge. And we know about the Spotify Camp Nou record right now this season that Barca have won every game at home. I feel like that'll definitely be a huge thing for Barca. And we also saw that in the Sevilla game in the Camp Nou, Barca opened up like a section of the stadium for I believe the debut of new fans as well, which just brings more atmosphere and energy to the stadium, and it gives the players more energy as well. Just hearing the cheers from the fans, and that'll definitely be huge versus Newcastle, where I feel like fans always will have some sort of impact on the players, and it can help them even perform better. And yeah, I feel like that's also one of the main reasons why Barca has won every game this season at the Camp Nou. Newcastle definitely is the home advantage is huge as well. But yeah, I feel like the players. I mean, I think the players that I think will be the most important are obviously Pedri and Lamine Yamal and Raphinha, and I think even João Garcia. I feel like Newcastle will definitely want to be very attacking, and I feel like they'll try their best to try to out-strengthen Barca in the midfield. I mean, we saw last game how they kept on, like, Joe Linton kept on injuring Pedri, and because they couldn't get the ball off him. So I feel like they really want to try to use strength over something like technicality and stuff. And I do think their counterattacks and just their attack in general could be kind of scary for Barca, because we even saw last game, Elanga was kind of threatening. He didn't take his chances, right? But attacking wise, he was kind of scary going up against. I feel like Barca didn't play that well defensively. I feel like too many holes were given at times, and yeah, so I feel like definitely Barca need to find a way to counteract that stuff. I think players like Pedri will be huge in just keeping possession against that midfield and just making sure that Newcastle can counterattack. And definitely attacking wise, I feel like last game versus Newcastle, Barca didn't really do that well at all at really attacking. I feel like it didn't go as we would expect against players like Lamine Yamal, because I felt like going to that game, the first leg, Lamine Yamal his form was super good. He was scoring a lot, and I thought he would have done better, but I feel like he didn't have that much impact. I think this game will be different. I think at home, with some rest, I think he will be able to do much better on the attacking front. And yeah, I think I would say I want Lewandowski to start over Fran. I think if that happens, then I think definitely the crossing will be huge. And I think Lewandowski is a good enough striker to, he has the experience to know where to be positioned at all times, and he's a very big box threat. So I feel like, because we've seen Lamine Yamal, one of his favorite moves is just to cross the ball in the box. So definitely, I think players like him and maybe even an Olmo in the box for tall players who can get a header off or some sort of just strike in the box will be huge. I feel like Barca will really kind of rely on our crosses as well. I think Cancelo also recently, we talked about his attacking presence, and I think definitely he can bring something new to this game. I feel like last game for Newcastle, he also wasn't too impressive when he played. I think definitely coming off this game, he can definitely bring more to the left side, especially. And I think Raphinha also. I thought Raphinha versus Newcastle didn't have a good game, really. I think this game he can definitely do more, and I think he will do more. Coming off a game like this, I think his presence is super important. Other players, I mean, I don't know if Rashford will get minutes off the bench. I'm not too sure, but I think if he does, I hope he makes more impact than he did last time. Because we know that the first game versus Newcastle in the group stage, he got those 2 brilliant goals that ultimately got Barca the win. But the first like when he came as a sub, it's like he didn't really do much. So I do think that just has to be improved from Rashford, especially if he wants to stay at Barca and get permanently signed. I think the board's looking to get more from him this season, because Barca want a winger who can be here for a few more seasons and have a really huge impact. So if Rashford can't provide that, then I feel like Barca may even look for other options on the left wing as like a backup for Raphinha or something like that. So I feel like Rashford has to prove himself a bit more because I feel like when he's played, he hasn't offered as much impact as he could. Also, I think Fermín will be huge as well. I feel like Fermín and also even Bernal, I feel like those two players, I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I feel like they always have some sort of like impact. Like with Bernal in the midfield, I feel like having a player like him who's very composed, who's very good at passing and just controlling as well, along with Pedri. I think it'll be huge because I feel like Newcastle really want to try dominating the midfield. So I feel like Barca's midfield has to be super good at just keeping control and keeping possession, just passing, making the right passes, making the right decisions. So Bernal will definitely be huge in that if he plays, which I'm pretty sure he will start. And for me, also just his energy and his pressing, and he's very good at just winning the ball off players to start off counterattacks or just attacks for Barca. And I think that'll be huge versus Newcastle. I felt like versus Newcastle he wasn't really that good, so I think he can definitely offer more this game. And I think having a player like him who, we know how good he is at attacking, his shot power is pretty strong. He loves to attack, and I think in a game where you need goals, Barca really need to get the goals over Newcastle because right now it's a 1-1 tie. Obviously, I think having a player like that who's very attacking minded can definitely bring some impact for Barca in the attacking wise. So yeah, I think the most important thing for this game is just to get the goals. And I think with the I would say rested attack and just the players coming off with this form, I think Barca can get it done and get the goals. Hopefully, I think the first half is the most important part where Barca can get the goals at first, and then kind of sell the game more down, and then the second half try to just control the game and just keep like the lead and try to get the win ultimately.
Yeah, and just quickly on the Sevilla game, I mean, this is exactly the kind of performance you want before a Champions League second leg. And honestly, we saw a lot of our attacking play was well flowing, and a lot of our players seemed to be confident, especially Raphinha getting that hat trick, and even Cancelo playing really well. So even we even saw some of our midfielders chipping in, so that was good to see. But overall, yeah, I think that was a really good game to win 5-2 at home. And I mean, going to this Newcastle game, I'll ask for your predictions really quickly. But for me, I mean, I'm gonna predict a 3-1 win. I think we are gonna concede a goal. I think that's something we've seen so many times this season. But again, I feel like our attacking um, output is gonna be like too much for Newcastle at home. And hopefully players like Yamal step up because he did get that rest. I think Raphinha, with the confidence he has right now, hopefully he does contribute as well. And obviously key players like Pedri and Bernal and stuff, hopefully they also contribute. And we also might need someone like a Cancelo to step up again, or even João Garcia to, do those crucial saves. So hopefully they do well. And it was actually surprising to not see someone like Rashford, Ferran Torres, or Eric Garcia get any minutes at all in the Sevilla game. Even like Rashford, I feel like he hasn't been really like part of the team as much as often in recent times. And even with the Ferran Torres, I think there's been news that Hansi Flick's been like preparing the lineup against Newcastle with Ferran Torres as striker. So again, I don't think you can really blame Fleck for that because even like in the first, like Lewandowski really wasn't doing anything much special. So again, I don't think Ferran Torres is going to be any like worse. And even with Eric Garcia, I mean, we did see he's been struggling with injury a bit. So hopefully he is fit enough to start at right back. I don't know if I'd be fully confident in giving Xavi Espart the full starting spot. Obviously, like he is a promising player, but I mean, a Newcastle second leg where it's really important for Barca to win. I think a more experienced player like Eric Garcia, who's been so consistent this season, I really want to see him kind of take part of the team. And yeah, overall, I just want to see Flick kind of play a team that's really like one of our strongest teams. I don't want to see that Araujo right back there kind of experimenting, and I think that didn't really work out as well as we thought it would. I do think a player like Yamal needs someone like a runner that can overlap with him. And honestly, I play someone like a Xavi Spark over Araujo at right back because, again, I feel like he can also give those overlapping runs and kind of support Yamal more. So, yeah, I do want to see some sort of a strong lineup from Flick with overall, hopefully he learned from the first leg and stuff. So, I mean, other than that, I think looking at the big picture, I think the big Sevilla win was a good confidence booster, and obviously with the lead in La Liga, that's really important. So Hopefully, I mean, the yes, conceding 2 goals at home was against a struggling Sevilla side isn't like the most ideal thing, but again, both goals were kind of like good, well worked goals from Sevilla's end. I mean, the volley was really good, and even the cross and header kind of was a good play. So again, hopefully Barca do not be like don't be susceptible to that against Newcastle, because we have seen players like Elanga, Gordon kind of have like a couple moments against us where they could have scored. So hopefully we do learn from that, and hopefully we are more like defensively, stronger. And yeah, overall, my prediction will be that Barca win 3-1 at home and head on to the quarterfinals. But yeah, what are your thoughts and predictions?
Yeah, yeah. So my prediction would be, I was thinking 3-1 as well, or even a 4-1. But I could definitely take a 2-1 as well, like a 2-1 win. I think it will be hard, but I think now that this is the first game. I don't think it's a Barca stadium. I feel like Barca play much better at home, and I think Barca will score a lot more at home. I mean, we saw that game versus Atleti. We're down 4-0 in the tie, and then second leg, Barca were able to make it a 3-0, and I think Barca play much better in at home, and I think so that will be one of the main reasons why I think Barca will get the win, and I think Barca will score goals, and I think players like Lamine will be on fire. I think Raphinha will be on fire. I think Pedri, Ronaldo. I think everyone will be on fire, and I think it'll be a huge game. And I think like the 3-1 meet a 3-2 also yeah 3-0 or 2-0 win, and her prediction of the goal scorers. I feel like Lamine might score a goal. I think there might even be a pen that maybe Raphinha scores. I can even see a Lewandowski scoring a goal, or even like an Olmo. Um, on my like a hot take, I'll say is I think Pedri scores a goal. I don't know why I think that, but I think Pedri might just get a goal. It can outside the box shot or something. So I think besides that, yeah, I'll say after I were like pick goal scorers, I'll go like Pedri, Lamine Yamal, and I'll say like a Raphinha for the 3 goals, and then if Newcastle were to score a goal, I feel like someone like Joe Linton would score it, or maybe even like a Tonali. I mean, so yeah, I think that would be like my predictions. And yeah, I think Barca will get the win overall. I think advance to the next game, where I think Barca will play out. I'm pretty sure Atleti will secure the win versus Spurs as well tomorrow. So I think it'll be the Barca versus Atleti quarterfinals, which will be a pretty huge game.
Yeah, those are pretty good overall predictions. I mean, that pretty much wraps up our episode for today. I mean, again, a really good win against Sevilla and a really good 4 point cushion that we recovered in La Liga. So that hopefully that really does play a part in our overall season. And I mean, looking forward, I think we are really optimistic about the Newcastle game in the Champions League. It has been like, last season we reached semifinals. So hopefully, I mean, we have been arguably given the easier side of the bracket. So we do want to see this team, end up in the more like later stages, the Champions League. And hopefully we do end up doing that. But again, as you mentioned, if we do end up beating Newcastle, we are going to face Atletico Madrid, which we could have the opportunities to get our revenge. So that's going to be interesting to see as well. But again, yeah, let us know your thoughts down in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on all our socials. But thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.